Hey, how's it going guys? Nate here, and in case you noticed, which you didn't, I haven't uploaded an Elder Scrolls 6 locations video in about a week, so this one is very long overdue. And as this sort of series continues in which we take a look at each of the provinces in Tamriel, searching for possible location for the next Elder Scrolls game, we're actually winding down to the last couple of unvisited provinces, and for this week the majestic Summerset Isles will be our focus. Now, the Summerset Isles are a small archipelago, consisting of three major islands, known as Summerset, Oorden, and, oh boy, this is going to be hard to pronounce, Aratium, located just off the southwest coast of Valenwood. Now, these islands are the native homeland of the High Elves, or Altmer, depending on how pretentious you feel like sounding. The early history of this region throughout the First and Second Era is subject to a lot of mystery. It is believed that the High Elves who currently inhabit the area are the direct descendants of the first race of elven folk, who landed on the Summerset Island, and due to being on a previously uninhabited island with no direct land connections, couldn't really breed with anyone but each other, and as a result, carry many of their direct ancestral traits and haven't really deviated too much from them genetically speaking. Unlike their relatives such as the Wood Elves or the Dark Elves of Morrowind, who are very different than the original Elves of Tamriel, these ones, the High Elves, seem to be the purest. After landing on Summerset, they spread out across the archipelago, and it's unknown what life was like in the First Era. Typically, in most regions of Tamriel, the earliest years of a region were characterized by various native tribes infighting, so assuming the same took place here would be a pretty safe bet. However, by the mid-Second Era, it would seem as though the region was under the control of a single, unified state. But on the mainland continent of Tamriel, around the same time, Tiber Septim was conquering himself a very large empire, and decided that the Summerset Isles would make a pretty nice tropical resort of sorts. So he invaded the islands with a pretty unique weapon at his disposal. It was him who made use of a colossal Dwemer Centaurian-like machine that steamrolled the High Elven armies and annexed the region into his empire. Their conquest by the Imperials left a very sour taste in the natives' mouths, as the native High Elves always considered themselves to be relatively superior to their human counterparts, and being conquered so easily by them really upsetted that notion. But by the Third Era, Tiber Septim was long dead, as was his machine, and these islands were becoming almost impossible for the Empire to govern, as sending ships and soldiers to such a uselessly rebellious province was becoming very costly. So the region slowly regained some of its autonomy, and eventually became fully independent in the year 22 of the Fourth Era, as a nationalist faction known as the Thalmor ousted the Isles' ruling monarch, who was previously loyal to the Empire, and established the Third Aldemari Dominion. The Thalmor had obtained their relevance during the Oblivion Crisis, which took place in the latter portion of the Third Era, as they made a handful of significant military last stands against the Daedra, in which they claimed they saved the island in doing. Now, we don't know for sure if any of that is actually true, but that's what the Thalmor claimed to have happened, and anyone that disagreed with them was mysteriously suicided in the back, so their stories were largely believed by the locals who welcomed their new overlords. And with the Empire so weakened by the previously mentioned Oblivion Crisis, they were pretty much powerless to stop the Aldemari Dominion from rising. As the Thalmor began to consolidate the Aldemari Dominion, they even went on to take to the offensive against the Empire, and conquered many of their southern territories, including much of Valenwood, and also ended up subjugating elsewhere under two client states, which I did talk a little bit about in my Elsewhere video, which you can click on in the description down below. Losing so much ground so fast, it became very clear to the Empire that they were no longer the dominant faction in Tamriel. And later in the year 171 of the Fourth Era, the Aldemari Dominion realized that too, and decided to strike at the heart of the Empire itself, Cyrodiil, while at the same time also invading the Imperial province of Hammerfell. The goal was absolute conquest, and while the Thalmor ultimately failed in this, despite capturing the Imperial capital itself, only to see it retaken and the largest Aldemari army massacred in the process. This would be known as the Battle of the Red Ring, and following this engagement, both sides were forced to the negotiating table. Still fresh off of victory, the Empire still realized that their army was in an even worse condition than the Thalmor's, and so the Emperor Titus Mede agreed to sign what would be known as the White Gold Concordat, which granted the Aldemari military access throughout Imperial lands and outlawed the worship of Talos, who had previously conquered the Summerset Isles. And that brings us right up to the beginning of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, as the Stormcloaks rise up against the Empire as a result of them signing this treaty. So how likely is it that Bethesda would choose this location for its next title? Well, there are various gaps and seemingly interesting aspects of this Isle story, such as the earlier years, in which we know literally nothing about, to the period of waning Imperial rule as the Thalmor begin their rise. Perhaps the player could choose to bolster Imperial power during this time, or assist the fascist-like Thalmor. At the end of the day, however, I'm more or less convinced that any game in this region would probably be taking place post-Elder Scrolls V, and somewhat include the growing tensions between the Empire and the Aldemari Dominion once again. At the end of the Imperial campaign in Skyrim, General Tullius made it explicitly clear that he believes the Empire and the Dominion will come to blows once again, and it would be cool to experience a war like this without a clear outcome already decided, especially from the other side, and I don't think Bethesda would want to miss that opportunity. Furthermore, the Isles really nail everything that Bethesda wants on its geographical checklist, so to speak. Vast mountain ranges, dense forests, lavish cities and coastal regions, everything Bethesda likes about building a map the Summerset Isles has to offer for them, and that's something you can't really say about most provinces. So as a whole, Summerset Isles certainly offers a lot for Bethesda to work with if they choose to make it the setting for their next Elder Scrolls game. But at the same time, I still think Hammerfell is my favorite location. That is where I would like to see Bethesda go next time, but Summerset Isles may even be a close second for me. Leave a comment down below, what are your opinions? Do you think Summerset Isles would be a good spot? Would you rather it see replaced by something else, i.e. Hammerfell? But I'm gonna wrap the video up right here. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to leave a like down below, dislike if you did not, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.